All right, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on our virtual program today. My name is Kim Guile, and I am the president of KC Downtowners, and I'm also the community reference manager at the Kansas City Public Library. And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Welcome. The KC Downtowners is an informal association of Kansas Cityans who live, work, and or play downtown in downtown Kansas City. And we are dedicated to downtown development and to promoting a positive community spirit. Now, Mayor Lucas is not able to be with us today. However, we are very fortunate to hear from Councilman Eric Bunch, who represents the 4th District. And the council does have a hard stop at 12:30. So we will be mixing up the order of things today to maximize the time that we have with him. Eric, are you on the line and ready to go? Oh, let's see. He is joining right now. So we will welcome him into the room and get him all situated. And we are very excited today also to have HNTB as our sponsor and to highlight the International Relations Council as our featured nonprofit. So I see that Eric should be in the room now. And Eric, are you ready to go?
Sure, as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay, perfect. So,
and I don't,
well,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
So welcome, Eric, and we're very excited to have you and hear about what's happening in downtown Kansas City. And we will take audience questions in the chat. So if you're ready to go, let's go ahead and hear from you.
Sorry, I had a little bit of a distraction just then. Yeah, I don't have any specific talking points, but I just wanted to come here and join in and see what all is going on and hopefully answer any questions anyone may have. But I do want to highlight just a couple of I think big picture things right now. And it's been an unprecedented. I think we maybe overuse that. Maybe we don't overuse that term. Unprecedented year is absolutely correct, and that it's been an interesting year, and we've had a lot of challenges, and I think as a city we're tackling many of those challenges head on, and also just sort of figuring things out along the way. And I wanted to highlight a couple of things that sort of relate to COVID relief that I guess bright spots and things where we've learned to adapt to meet the needs of our citizens and our small businesses, but also see them as opportunities to maybe change some things going forward. And so just a couple of those relating to small businesses, in particular restaurants and bars. We've been able to find new ways to provide outdoor space for folks, for businesses to operate, the restaurant, to get people seating outside. So, and some of those, as an example, if you have a parking lot, you should be able to use that parking lot as a restaurant, as a seating space or what have you. And so that's something that was created to make it more to make it easier for restaurants during the pandemic to provide outdoor space where we know is safer than eating inside maskless. And so that's something that we've realized is actually truly beneficial outside of a pandemic. It just gives restaurants more flexibility with how to use their space. So we've made that permanent, and that's I think a sign of I guess maybe a little bit of a bright spot in this sort of really tough, dark time of our city's history. So we've looked at a few of those, and a few of those things. We're also now looking at the Open Streets program, where neighborhoods were able to close down a street temporarily to through traffic so that people could get outside. Something that we know is really beneficial in a stressful time is to have that physical activity. And so we're looking at how do we make that program permanent and make it safe and enjoyable for neighborhoods to continue to participate in. And so aside from specific COVID things that we've tackled, another kind of big bright spot is that the American Recovery Plan is allocating a significant sum of money to the city of Kansas City directly, which was not the case with the CARES Act. So we're actually able to directly access $193 million over 2 tranches that is flexible. It's not just for COVID response. This is actually to help do things like actually cover the revenue shortfall that we've anticipated. We passed a budget just which maybe is another thing that I should touch on, is that we just passed the budget, our annual budget, and we anticipated a $70 million revenue shortfall that we closed without causing anyone to lose their job here at the city. Of our 7,000 roughly employees, there's no one who's going to lose their job or even be furloughed despite that $70 million revenue shortfall. But the good news is that the American Recovery Plan will give us over $97 million this year, $96 million this year, and then another tranche next year that will help close that gap even further. So actually, we're going to continue to provide the level of service that you all know and expect, despite being in such an economic downturn. And so going to the budget just briefly, we did pass, like I said, we passed a budget just a few weeks ago. It's by our charter, we're required to pass our budget before the end of March, and then it goes into effect. Our fiscal year begins May 1. So we're about to turn over into fiscal year 21-22. And I think one big, kind of cool thing about that budget is that we've doubled the budget for street maintenance. I know it's kind of a low level thing that people don't necessarily think of as a big picture policy issue, but it's one that we've realized is vitally important for our economy and for safety. And so it's also going to provide an opportunity to implement complete streets, road diets, and bike lanes, something that some of you may know that is near and dear to my heart. I'm excited to see an increased budget for resurfacing as a way to not just fill potholes and prevent potholes going forward, but also actually to make our streets safer. And which is the next thing that fits into that is our Vision Zero plan. It's been over a year now. The council unanimously passed a resolution calling for a Vision Zero policy. And what that means is, we're looking at all these investments, street resurfacing and GeoBond dollars. When it comes to transportation, we need to be prioritizing safety. And so we have a Vision Zero plan that's on the way. We're going to be, in the not so distant future, probably revealing some high priority projects that would be geared towards making minor to major improvements at our high injury for those intersections where pedestrian crashes often happen more frequently. And so we're going to be talking about investing some dollars into improving those intersections through our Vision Zero program, something that I'm really, really excited about. Then another big project that's coming forward. I'll two. The first one is obviously the streetcar extension into the Berkeley Riverfront, downtown oriented project there. So not only, you may know that there's that we're extending that streetcar thanks to some partnerships with the Port Authority and KCATA and the Streetcar Authority to actually extend the streetcar down to the riverfront, which will be great to provide another access to the riverfront. But in addition to that, we're building a new bicycle and pedestrian bridge, and something we just passed and why I was running late is we had a long committee discussion about our GeoBond projects, and I'm glad to report back that we're going to be building a bike pedestrian access, a new bridge right next to the viaduct that goes down into Berkeley Park along next to Grand. So we'll not only have a streetcar in a few years that's fully funded, not by the city of Kansas City, but through a partnership with several entities, but will also be the city's contribution is helping to fund that bike pedestrian bridge, which we know is vital as the riverfront continues to grow. access is going to be key. And there is exactly one bicycle and pedestrian access right now, which is the Town of Kansas Bridge. So we're very excited to actually have a second one that will, obviously will greatly reduce will greatly reduce the barriers that exist between downtown and the riverfront. So starting to tie that back together, which is exciting. And then the big one is our streetcar expansion, or streetcar extension to not just the riverfront, but going south to UMKC. So we'll finally connect the amazingly successful downtown streetcar to a much bigger part of the city. So super exciting to have that happening in the next few years, and it is fully funded now. The federal government has come through with the Federal Transit Administration has come through with a full funding agreement. So the construction you may have seen on Main Street is sort of starting. A lot of that, all those cones out there right now are mostly water projects. So a lot of water main replacements and some stormwater projects. Those are happening in anticipation of the streetcar. So those, that stuff that needed to happen anyway. Now's the time to get it done before we lay the streetcar tracks and start to really see some forward momentum on the streetcar expansion. So those are kind of a very quick rundown of things that are happening. In the 4th district, there are lots of other things, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have on other things. But those are the ones that I kind of want to highlight, just because they're such I think important things for the city going forward.
Yeah, the questions are pouring in, Eric, and I'm excited to get to them with you. So thank you for being here and joining us today. Can you speak to, we have a question coming in from Gail. Can you speak to the capacity issues in venues such as the Folly Theater? So with social distancing, they can only accommodate about 200 to 250 folks when their building capacity is really over 1,000.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, the reality is that we're still in a pandemic. We are very far from herd immunity. We're very far away from having enough people vaccinated to be, for me, to express comfort with filling our venues, whether it be it the T-Mobile Center, the Folly, or any others. So we do need to still be mindful of that. However, I think moving forward, we need to have a discussion about some of our important venues and how maybe they fit into this the ARP dollars, the American Recovery Plan. No promises there, but it is something that has been discussed that venues of many sorts should be considered for some relief funding for those, the unfortunate, they've been hit probably about the hardest. There are few businesses, I think, who have been hit the hardest, or hit harder than our artistic venues. And so we've got to be mindful of that. But again, we're still in a pandemic. I can't speak to the details of what may happen going forward with our emergency order and the declaration of the emergency order declaration and how it would affect capacity, but it is something that we will continue to monitor, and we'll continue to follow the science, but with the eye on how do we help you all moving forward to help kind of possibly fill in some of that revenue shortfall that you've undoubtedly experienced.
Yeah, thank you for that. That is a very nice segue into the other question we have coming in about the relief funding. So it's about 195 million that has come into Kansas City. How are we going to be spending that?
We don't know yet. We have a lot of priorities, and no doubt there will be a huge wish list from a variety of corners of the community, and undoubtedly we'll have council members who have ideas on what they want to spend the funding on. I think top priority is any sort of service cuts that we have. And again, we did a very surgical, and the finance department and the new city manager really deserve a ton of credit for taking such a surgical approach to the budget. But surely there are things that that receive cuts that should come back up. So that first and foremost for me, my priority is going to be making sure that anything that we saw a cut to, whether it's parks or we need to be thinking about how do we what of those. Actually, let me back up a second and just say that we have to also be mindful of the fact that the budget is a policy document, and some of the decisions about where things got cut, because not every budget, not every department budget got cut exactly the same. Some were deeper than others. Some actually, the fire department, as an example, actually got a bit of an increase, and that's another story altogether. Most of that is because of the new sales tax that voters passed last year. So, so in order to provide equity, we didn't cut every department equally. And I think that that's fair. I think that some departments need to be preserved more than others in terms of their budget year over year. But there are also some cuts that came as a policy direction. As an example, we just passed an ordinance that would create a new housing department, or it came out of committee, and so we are talking about creating a brand new housing department in order to more squarely put housing in the forefront of city policy and city decision making. And so that's a departmental shift. And so you'll see in our budget that there are some cases where there are cuts that may be because of the revenue shortfall. Some of it was because we are moving in a different direction and shifting money and to more prop up other departments that may take higher priority now and higher precedent over others. So where I'm going with this is that the COVID relief dollars, first and foremost, the ones that were the departments that were cut simply because of shortfalls, I think we need to be looking at first and foremost propping those back up. Making sure parks is whole would be a priority of mine. And then after that, after kind of filling in the gaps in services that we all expect, and the next thing would be, how do we help the community that's struggled the most? And so, for me, it's going to be, how do we start to build a bridge to a figurative bridge to housing opportunities for the unsheltered, who the population of our unhoused has skyrocketed during all of this. So that would be a top priority of mine, to figure out how do we create a more continuum of housing options for these folks, so that we can get them into stable housing in a transitionary period. So that will be I think an important thing. Obviously, the health department has a lot of other needs as well, and I think some programmatic things that we should be looking at in terms of public health. And then I think we also need to be looking at, how do we help some of our small businesses who struggle the most. So then there may be some specific projects that may come out. I don't know yet. I don't have any necessarily specific projects other than housing as one of our priorities out of ARP funds. But then there's going to be another, most likely another round of funding through the American Jobs Act, I think is what the Biden administration is calling it. Everyone's arguing about what counts as infrastructure, but really the bill is to create more jobs to help recover from and come out of this this really economic downturn from COVID. And so I'm confident that we will see some big things come out of that for Kansas City specifically. And another thing is that earmarks are coming back. The earmarks at the federal level were kind of a bad word for a while, but it was a way that it was a way for Congress people to help their districts directly with some funding, but it was also a great way to create some collaboration across the aisle. And I think that there's some good ideas coming out of that could create that could bring some additional infrastructure dollars to the Kansas City region, thanks to the help of Congressman Cleaver and actually Congresswoman Sharice Davids just across the state line. and others as well, including Senator Moran, actually in Kansas, who was very supportive of the streetcar, which is unique to have someone who doesn't even serve this state. And so, we're looking at some opportunities there with transit and other big priorities for us out of the Jobs Act, and as well as other earmarks down the road.
Great, thank you. What's the neighborhood, or what is the plan for funding the Neighborhood Tourist Development Fund? And typically this funding is from the hotels, and NTDF is one of the only sources of funding for arts and culture organizations. How is the city planning to support the arts throughout this recovery?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. It's a program, obviously, as you all know, that's designed to bring more people to Kansas City, which is something that we've been reluctant to really push. It's been challenging to push tourism and try to get more people here because of we obviously we don't want to cause a greater spike here in Kansas City by inviting people from all over the country, but we have to start to rebuild, and we have to recover our really, really struggling tourism industry here. So in the interim, while we have no revenue, virtually no revenue coming into the NTDF fund, I think the ARP dollars should be looked at as an opportunity to do that, because as you all know, most of that funding goes to small amounts in the grand scheme of things to small organizations and small to medium-sized events, some very large events, but things that some of these nonprofit organizations often are really reliant on as a form of revenue to get their event. They're often reliant on pretty significantly on the event itself that they're using the funding to support. So I believe that we need to, while the revenue has kind of dried up, we need to replenish that, possibly with ARP dollars as those come in. So that's something that we'll definitely be looking at, and we'll look under other rocks as well. Right now, the general fund is probably not a place to look for that. But going forward, I think we've got to turn over some rocks and replenish that fund to some degree as we come out of the pandemic to start to sort of rev up the tourism industry again.
Thank you for that. Can you tell us about what the new Office of Citizen Engagement is?
I don't have an answer for that. I will have to come back to you on that. I know that was a couple of my colleagues really led the charge on that, but it's obviously something that we need to be doing. I think that bigger picture, we need to look at all of our communications and how we make sure that communications is not just seen as a one-way blast of information to the public, but there's a two-way street. And I think that was kind of the real point of that. But it also can help break down silos that, the public works department is not working independent of the water department when it comes to these big projects as they go out and talk to the community. Having sort of that communications overarching function, that public engagement function, can help sort of stitch those together so that the water department, even sometimes the departments themselves end up getting siloed in different divisions, but having those departments talk to each other and in many formats, one of those should be community engagement. So I think that it's a great thing going forward. We've just got to make sure that we execute it. The new city manager has been on the job for just a few months now. And just in my time on the council, we've passed a lot of resolutions saying, be it resolved that the city manager is hereby directed to do this, and this, to develop a community engagement office, to develop an office of equity and inclusion, and to do a Vision Zero policy, to do this and that. So there's a whole bunch of those that he's picking up that we're sort of just sitting in the ether for a bit while we were kind of in an interim basis. And so that's probably one of them that is still ready. It's there, ready to go. But the city manager is, I think, kind of slowly building up his entire team and making changes at each department. So that's it's going to take some more pushing, I think, and to make sure that bubbles to the top is a priority.
Okay, thank you. This might be a very quick answer. It might be a complicated answer. Any idea about how long Main will be torn up?
Where? Oh, on Main Street?
Mm-hmm.
Probably until the streetcar is done. I hate to be that I guess flippant about it. I don't want to be, but I am confident that with the downtown streetcar construction that team learned a lot of lessons about how to make this as painless as possible. But we're going to be seeing some, I think, and I'm not the person to answer the specifics of this, but I think we all need to sort of buckle down. And I live 2 blocks off of Main Street where we're dealing with right now with water department projects, Spire projects, telecommunications projects that are splintering out into the neighborhoods as well. And it's going to be kind of rough, and we have to be thoughtful about how those small businesses that are along that corridor are affected, how the residents in the apartments along Main Street and the folks who live in the neighborhoods adjacent to it, how we make this as painless as possible. And I'm confident that we learned enough from the first time in downtown, which is actually even tighter physically. It's a smaller footprint, so there's less space to do all that work in. And so I think now we'll have a little bit more like literally physical space to kind of keep open and keep things moving forward. But the streetcar is, the construction will be really commence in earnest in the next maybe year and a half. Someone on there could probably answer that better than I could. And then, I think, aiming for completion in 2025 is what we're really looking at. But, we've got to kind of prepare ourselves for a pretty significant disruption that with a really, really bright light at the end of that tunnel.
Thank you for that. And it is 12:30 right now. If you can, in the next 30 seconds before your hard stop here, any progress on partnering with Jackson County on a new jail?
Not that I'm aware of. There has been some talk that I think has stirred some problematic, not necessarily between us and them, but they're talking about taking over a mobile home park that kind of got out into the news. Sort of like over by the Blue River in the Northeast Industrial District. I think that's going to be problematic because there's a lot of people who live there. That's just taking over people's homes and then putting a jail there. That's the Jackson County's business. But when it affects people and their homes, I think that needs to be treated with caution. But as far as I am aware, there's not any significant progress on a partnership between us and them. That's a bit out of my realm. It's something I'd have to kind of dig into to find out where we actually are, or if we're gonna, go it alone with the municipal jail or city-owned jail. Something that I'm very skeptical of. I have a whole other opinion about our how we do things and how the criminal justice system works, especially as it pertains to ordinance violations. I firmly believe that we need to be decriminalizing things that are not a threat to public safety, and putting fewer people in jail. And that's something that the mayor has been very vocal on, and I think we've made some real progress on. But there's still some big challenges out there with more violent offenders that we have to be mindful of. So I don't have a great update for you there, other than to say that we're going to continue working on it, and I'm going to dig into it and find out what else is going on there.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I know it's 12:33. You've given us 3 extra minutes, and I really appreciate that. It's wonderful to hear from you. Thank you for spending the time with us. Have an excellent afternoon, and go on and serve people. Have a great afternoon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, thank you. And before we get to today's sponsor, the KC Downtowners would like to highlight the International Relations Council. They are a nonprofit that we hope you'll consider making a donation to in lieu of the normal ticket price of our luncheon. And so here to tell us a little bit about IRC is their Executive Director, Matthew Hughes. Matthew?
Kim, thanks so much. And what a treat to be here. Special appreciation to Councilman Bunch for joining us, and to you, Kim, and the Downtowners Board for your invitation to join you today. I'll just share a couple pieces of our new website. We hope that you'll go to irckc.org and check us out. But we've been in Kansas City for more than 65 years. Elliot Berkeley was our founder, the brother of Mayor Richard Berkeley, and our first speaker was Eleanor Roosevelt in January of 1955. You can see we're about conversations, and we're about figuring out what's going on around the world and how it connects to our community here. Kansas City is not an island, and everyone on this call can figure out ways that Kansas City itself is international, and that things going on around the world impact us here in Kansas City. We are an apolitical, nonpartisan organization, but we talk about, like I said, what's going on around the world, current events. And so you'll see on our events calendar, which we hope you'll check out, we've got some really interesting programs coming up. Tonight, for example, we've got a program on the Latvian language. And if you don't know where Latvia is, it's okay. We're going to tell you tonight, but we're going to give you an introduction to the Latvian language. You see, we do a career series most weeks. We've got some programs on Iran and the Persian Gulf coming up next week. This one will be a favorite of mine, a novel called Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead. So if you're looking for a murder mystery thriller, join us for that. But I do especially want to highlight coming up on Thursday, April 29th, the Global Horizon Celebration. And this will really be a sampler platter for you as you're figuring out what the IRC is and the different programs that we do. Of particular interest that day is in the afternoon. We have a program called The World is Here, looking at how international Kansas City is and why it matters that Kansas City is international. So Consul Navarro will be there with us for that. Feng Shen, who many of you will know, Carolyn Watley, the chair of the chamber, as well as Dr. Charlie Bankert from KU. So do go online to irckc.org and check us out. You'll also find more information about becoming a member on there. And I'll put some information in the chat. Kim, thanks again to you and the Downtowners Board. Pleasure to be with you all virtually today.
Well, it's our pleasure. Thank you so much, Matthew. And our lunch sponsor today is HNTB. Tim Morgan is the office leader at HNTB, and he's on the call, and he is going to tell us more about this company.
All right, great. Thank you, Kim, and thank you to the KC Downtowners for giving us the opportunity to be here today. I see a lot of my colleagues and a lot of people I know in the downtown community on the call today. HNTB is a engineering and architecture and planning firm that serves is a nationwide firm. We serve all 50 states. We're a US-based company, and we're headquartered right here in downtown Kansas City. So we're on Quality Hill on the west side of downtown, and we have been in business for over 100 years now. In Kansas City, HNTB, we have the foundation of our national architecture practice is here in Kansas City. Our architecture practice is focused on supporting transportation infrastructure in our transit and aviation markets, as well as a fantastic sports architecture practice. And the office that I lead is our engineering and planning office here in Kansas City, and we have one of the largest engineering and planning offices for HNTB nationwide here in Kansas City. So we have about 5,000 employees nationwide and about 500 in Kansas City. And a lot of people, when we talk to people about what our mission as a firm is, it's about being invested in the geographies that we serve. So 70 offices across the country. It's critical to our business that we are involved in the communities. We understand the perspective of everyone in the community. We have people there that are engaged. Councilman Bunch talked about the transformational infrastructure investment that could occur over the next several years, and why we're proud, because we had those engagements in all of our communities, and so we know what we do every day, how we can impact the mission of the new administration and the opportunity that we have to drive equality within our communities, drive quality and access to jobs, and equality in how economic development occurs in our cities, and how the future of our country, and particularly Kansas City and downtown Kansas City, what that's going to look like in the future. So that's a really proud thing for me when I get out of bed in the morning and I know why I'm coming to HOTB. Those are the things that go through my mind, and I know that my colleagues here today share that as well. One of the something that makes us most proud is when we have employees that really embody the vision. So today we will honor Jared Miller, who is a former HNTB employee. He was we lost him 2 years ago. I know his family is here today, so say hello to them and welcome them. Sorry, I get emotional every time I think about Jared, and I know everybody else does too. So I apologize, but he really embodied our mission as a company, and we're so proud to have him honored in this way today. So thank you so much for doing this for Jared and for his family and for HNTB and KC Downtowners. And I'll turn it over to you to talk about the Jared Miller Award today. So thank you.
Thanks, Tim. I really appreciate that. And I thank you for your support so much for helping us to bring this Jared Miller Award to life. And now's the time. We're going to take a moment to honor Jared, who was an exceptional person. And as Tim mentioned, it's been 2 years now. He's no longer with us, but we want to honor him because he was such a special human, such an exceptional human, and he worked to enact change to make Kansas City and the world a better place. And he served on the KC Downtowners board and was president of Downtowners from 2016 to 2017. And his passion for Kansas City is something that was felt by everybody that he encountered, and his efforts had a notable and a positive impact on those of us who had the pleasure of knowing and working with him. And his commitment was not limited to Downtowners. He has been a leader in all aspects of his life. Anybody who came in contact with him knows that. He was a Centurion. He participated in Beyond the Loop, and he was in the KC Regional Transit Alliance. He was on the alumni board of the UMKC Block School. He supported the streetcar development that, we're growing on that even today. And he was a warm and inclusive leader, and he's a good listener, and he's a team player, and he was always just ready to help. And he was a change maker. And the Downtowners would like to honor his memory with the Jared Miller Award and acknowledging the contributions of others like Jared, who are dedicated to the quality and success of the Kansas City community. And so each year we'll ask for nominators and present the Jared Miller Award to up and coming individuals who exhibit selfless service to their community. And it is my very distinct honor and privilege to present this inaugural award to Jared's family. We are honored to have his wife, Julie, and father, Daryl, and mother, Linda, on the call. I'll open it up to you to see if you have any words that you would like to say.
Thank you, Kim. Thank you. We're so proud.
Even the animals are happy today. We all are very proud of Jared, his accomplishment, his heart for the Kansas City area, his compassion for people. And we all feel deeply touched that you're honoring him in this way. I want to thank you.
Very much so. Jared, as you guys know, his passion didn't extend into a tunnel. Sorry, I'm not getting emotional. It was anything and everything that you could possibly think of that would invigorate Kansas City and get it to continue to grow, get it on the map, whether it was bringing companies here, the streetcar to make access. He would love the river development. There's just so many things. So I also can't thank you enough for honoring him in that way and continuing to support and love and shout out from the rooftops, all the great and amazing people that will continue to do all that good for Kansas City.
And I guess one of the things that I always saw is we have a plaque that says, let my work in my life be an example to others of what I've done. And he always was the way he was. He always loved everybody. He was inclusive from little on up. And I'm just so proud that other people get to see and share in what we had the pleasure of enjoying for 34 years. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. This is very special, and I appreciate the fact that you're here and doing this with us. So I'm going to get through the rest of this meeting. Thank you so much to the Miller family for their gracious support and your willingness to accept this honor. And it's been so special to connect with you through Jared's memory. So thank you for that. So we do have a few announcements that I'm still going to get through here. We are now accepting applications for our new slate of board members. We have 4 vacancies on the board. So if you're interested, we'll put a link into the chat and send it out to everybody who RSVP'd. Fill out the survey, and then we'll be in touch with you. We're going to accept we're going to accept applications to be on the board through April 30th. Next month, we will do our part to engage around World Trade Month, where we will hear from Melissa Miller, who is the director of the World Trade Center located right here in Kansas City, actually in the same office space as Matthew and the International Relations Council. And finally, our purpose has always been to bring people together from all walks of life and all forms of diversity with welcome and open arms. And we stand firm in our opposition to racism in all of its forms, and we will never support exclusion or bullying of any degree. And our mission is to continue to be a resource to the community and raise awareness about issues that are related to our city and include all people in the discussion that will lead us to a better tomorrow. And in light of the intentional and hateful acts targeted against Asian and Asian American and Pacific Islanders, this organization is declaring its continued open opposition to such atrocities. And along with our community, we do recognize that there is no place for racism or intimidation or persecution, antagonization, destruction, violence, any personal attacks towards our fellow citizens, and we condemn hate and intend to create long-lasting social change. And we're doing that with people like Jared Miller, who have created such a shining example for us to follow. KC Downtowners remained committed to absolute inclusivity for every single member, and we encourage and support a diverse range of topics, speakers, guests, and our board of directors as well. All are welcome in this organization, and we're committed to keeping it that way. So thank you again for joining us, and special thanks to Aaron Barnum, my board mate, who helped me facilitate this meeting on the back end. And keep an eye out for the email and the registration link, and be sure to invite anybody else who you feel like would be of interest. So thank you so much all. Have a beautiful afternoon, and thanks for being a part of, I think, what was the most special KC Downtowners that we've ever had. So thank you, and we will come to a close.